Tonight we are giving dignity a voice and speaking about the Aphasia Center and SLP program here at Russell Sage College. I'm going to hand it off in a few moments. But some of the ways we're going to do tonight is they're going to do the first PowerPoint. Then we'll take a little break for questions that you can ask in the Q&A box or in the chat. The Q&A box is more helpful because it doesn't move as fast when you ask a question in case the chat gets busy. So please use the question and answer box if possible. Then we'll go into the second part of the presentation and then finish up with some more Q&A. So I'm going to hand things over to Jack, David, Julie, Kate, and Caitlin, and I will see you in a little bit. The ball's in your court.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Fran, and thank you, Jen. Hi, everyone. It's always a little bit of a surprise to talk to just myself and my fellow colleagues, but not to see anyone else. So I'm looking forward to sharing some information about the Aphasia Center and about the Speech-Language Pathology Department here at Russell Sage College. My name is Julie Hart, and I'm the director of the Aphasia Center, and I'm going to have my colleagues introduce themselves.
Why don't I go next? I'm Jack Pickering, co-chair of the SLP department with Dr. DeBonis. I have an expertise in voice, everything voice, the science, the production, the perception. I have been a licensed and certified speech-language pathologist since 1984. I like the combination of teaching and clinical work and research, and really excited to be here at Sage. Just finished our second year in the SLP program, which is exciting. So welcome, everyone, and I'll pass it on to Dave.
Hi, everybody. Great to see everybody here tonight. My name is Dave DeBonis. I have expertise in audiology, and I also teach research methods. And I like to try to make the connection between speech, language, and hearing, because I think that's important. I am also one of the co-chairs and enjoy very much being here at Sage. And I'm going to turn it over to our colleague, Caitlin.
Hey, great. Hi, everybody. My name is Caitlin Carroll, and I am a speech-language pathologist with expertise in the areas of speech sound disorders and pediatric language disorders. I also am very linked to the College of St. Rose program. I graduated there with my undergraduate degree, my graduate degree. Then I went back and I worked there in various roles. I was an adjunct, a clinical supervisor, and eventually full-time faculty there up until the college's closure. Outside of my academic work, I've worked in some local school districts in the New York Capital Region, and that's where I've really spent a lot of my passion developing ways to work across disciplines with different related service providers, special education teachers, general education teachers to support students in the schools. So I'm really excited to be here.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So I'm going to get started because I believe that Emily, our administrative assistant at the and PCA at the Aphasia Center, I saw her, she was on for a minute and now she's off. So we're happy to have her with us. But I believe that she won't be introducing herself. So I'm going to talk just a little bit about the Aphasia Center, which, if you know me, is my absolute privilege to run. I pinch myself literally every day at the idea that this is really my job. So I was so lucky to be asked to join Russell Sage and to open the center, and they really put a lot of faith in the program, and I'm truly so thrilled to share this with you. So I thought first, if we did a little bit of just making sure people understand what aphasia is, that might be something that that some of you may or may not know what it is. So I'm just going to share a little bit, and I want you just to think about the idea that aphasia is an acquired communication disorder that impairs a person's ability to process language. So we're not talking about thinking, we're not talking about the actual speech production, although that does get involved, but we're thinking about a person's ability to express their intelligence through verbal communication. That could be reading and writing and speaking and listening. It is really challenging for people emotionally. It's really challenging for people to resume living a life of meaning. And that is our goal at the center, to help someone do that. So most often when we meet someone who has aphasia, it's due to a stroke or a traumatic brain injury. Of people who have stroke, which by the way, every 40 seconds in the US, someone has a stroke. And right now, there are roughly 2.1 million people living with aphasia in the country. That's daunting to me. One, because it's not well known and understood by the community, and yet it happens more often than Parkinson's and then multiple sclerosis. And so it's just one of those processes that we don't hear as much about in the news, certainly. 30% of people who have a stroke will have aphasia. So not every stroke results in having a language impairment. There's an increasing number of people, though, that are getting diagnosed with a primary progressive aphasia, which does fall under the dementia umbrella. There's also primary progressive apraxia of speech, but that's more speech related. It's not related to their language. We do see folks at the aphasia clinic, though, who have progressive apraxia as well. Okay. So we typically think about people either having non-fluent production or very fluent production. Non-fluent, it's typically one or two words that the person can say, oftentimes the same exact word. And then, but they're able to communicate via gestures, potentially via writing, potentially via facial expressions. These people know what they want to say, but have trouble expressing it. If you have a fluent aphasia, we tend to see people with lots and lots of language, but not in the order within a sentence that can help you make sense, and not specific enough. The word finding, the actual word retrieval is really challenging for people. And so they might be saying a word like turkey, but really meaning the word tomato. They're convinced they're saying the word tomato, but turkey keeps coming out. So there's lots of different types of aphasia. We typically now think of it as divided into these two categories. Okay, so what is the Aphasia Center at Sage? We call it TACS, and we opened in July of 2024. As a matter of fact, July 8th, 2024. And so a little over a month ago, we had our second year anniversary, which is just amazing. Our goal is to really see people and help them to see their abilities, not necessarily their disability, and to let them understand that our goal is to help them live a really meaningful life, a meaningful life to that person, right? That doesn't mean it's meaningful to me. It's meaningful, very person-centered, person-driven approach. So we provide a really safe, positive environment, lots of support for people with aphasia at any stage of their recovery. And when we talk about people with aphasia, we're also meaning their care partners, their family members, their children, their parents, their friends. And our goal is to make sure that we're sharing information about aphasia with as many people in that person's circle as possible, allowing them to not only form a community within the Aphasia Center, but to re-engage with people that are important to them in a way that is meaningful to them and not degrading. One of the primary things that we focus on is this idea of supported conversation for aphasia. We train any student volunteers, any faculty volunteers, any community volunteers, all different disciplines. So originally, when we came from St. Rose, I had a one-to-one ratio of folks that had aphasia or cognitive linguistic impairment from brain injury, and then they were paired with a graduate student in speech pathology. Coming to Sage and not having access to a lot of graduate students has actually been amazing. I was a little nervous about it at first because you're used to that one-to-one ratio and making sure that one person is assigned to one person with aphasia. Now we're seeing students from all different disciplines, and I'll talk about how, but all different disciplines, community volunteers from all different areas with a variety of experiences, helping that person or supporting that person to allow them to communicate as effectively as possible. We also are lucky to be able to provide students opportunities for clinical experience during group and to allow them to develop a comfort with talking with someone who doesn't necessarily communicate in the way that they certainly did, and maybe not as in a way that's really clear. Excuse me. Our goal is to allow the person with aphasia to be the expert as opposed to being the patient. And that's a really critical change in perspective. It's really helpful to helping that person form a new identity when they maybe no longer can go back to work. They may not be able to regain all the activities that they did, but helping them to be seen as the experts here at the at TAX allows them to feel like they're the teacher, and the people without aphasia are learning how best to communicate from them. It's a great experience for students, a great experience for community members, and we're thrilled to have that opportunity. All right, let me see. Okay, so obviously, and you'll hear much more about it, but I would not even be here if it weren't for Dr. DeBonis and Dr. Pickering. And we had a over 30-year colleagueship at the College of St. Rose and have worked together in multiple different various projects. And so coming here is due to them. And the goal was to have some clinical presence as they were developing the department, and they're going to share a lot more with that. So I absolutely love the fact that I continue to work with these great friends, and now we have Caitlin Carroll with us, and we're thrilled to have Caitlin with us, and can see just how this program will continue to develop and grow. So what's interesting about the speech pathology department, and Caitlin, you can probably weigh in on this, but during the students' freshman year, they take a class called SLP 105, and it's a service learning class. And those students are able to participate at the center during that first semester. It's really, really unique because most undergraduate programs in speech pathology don't put the students into any clinical setting until much later in their undergraduate career. This, which we trialed in the fall, has really allowed the students to observe, to actively participate in a group, interview group members, and participate in research that allowing them to explore themselves, what it feels like to be in and working with someone who doesn't have effective communication all the time, and about what they feel about the field of speech pathology. So I think this is a preclinical experience that helps them get ready for clinical experience. Caitlin, do you want to add anything at this point, or are you going to share more about that later?
I'll share more about that later, other than to just say that I would agree how important it is for all of us to make sure that we have those clinical experiences for the undergraduate students, and seeing that happen so early has just been really amazing to see already.
Yeah, it's really changed my perspective too, because I thought, oh, it's too young. They're too young. I can't get them involved. It has been nothing but amazing, nothing really short of amazing to see the relationships, to see the partnerships that get developed, and the growth in that student from the first day they walk into the Aphasia Center until they're ready to leave at the end of the semester. And I love it. So, okay. So what do we look like? We are in this what's called the Speech and Language Center. Used to be the Health Science Building, and prior to that, it used to be the Interior Design Building. So it's been a host of things. But we have an administrative assistant, soon to be PCA. Her name is Emily Mooney. She just joined us on July 20th after our initial um, PCA and assistant left, Avina Bumpers. She left in July. We also, because of a donation given by St. Rose Alumni Association, we were really lucky to be able to employ a Spanish speaking translator and start Spanish speakers with aphasia groups. Alejandra Ortega is with us on Thursdays, and in the fall will be joining us Tuesdays and Thursdays. We are thrilled that we now have that offering, and we have the ability to offer an aphasia group to someone who's a Spanish speaker. There are not a lot of services for people who are Spanish speaking who have aphasia. So really lucky to be able to be one of those people. 38 private paying participants right now and growing. And as of literally last week, we got the notification that we will likely be approved to offer services under the New York State Department of Health Medicaid TBI waiver. Lots of words for offering services to those who really need to get continued services for their chronic aphasia. They're coming to do a building site visit on Tuesday, the 25th. So if everyone here collectively on Tuesday at 10 o'clock could cross everything possible, we would absolutely love that. Right now, we offer 11 weekly groups. Those are 2 hours each. 2 hours sounds like a long time, but it is not a long time because one of the key things is about making sure that people have talk time. And someone with aphasia does not have a quick ability to access their language. So having the time and not the pressure allows us allows them to be more successful. I've been so incredibly lucky. We've had student volunteers, and those student volunteers are certainly our students who are getting that preclinical experience. Occupational therapy graduate students who come in every summer, nursing students who we are part of their community nursing placement, and we have nurses that come in 3 days a week and for a semester. We have students from pre-med and bio, health science, but we also have students from criminal justice, from pre-law, education, special ed, business. That is due to the part that we are one of the RSC 301 placement sites, internship sites. And it's been absolutely wonderful because, again, it's helped me change perspective. Not a person with aphasia doesn't need to get really good communicating with a speech pathologist. They need to get really good communicating with people in their environment. That could be a police officer. That could be a lawyer. That could be the man who works at the grocery store or the postman or whoever it is in their natural environment. So why not train people from all different disciplines? And the students are really benefiting from this. We're getting great feedback, and I feel really lucky. Every person who comes into the Aphasia Center does a 2 hour not 2 hour, I'm so sorry, a training, a 40-minute online free training that talks about providing supported communication to that person. They also, the minimal participation is a one time, a 2 hour group. That rarely happens. Most people are there for 7 to 8 weeks, or they're there for at least 10 hours. And so we're really getting some great chunks of communication partner training and students who stay for a period of time. The beauty of being able to switch up volunteers after a couple of weeks is that every time that person with aphasia comes in contact with a new person, they are literally developing neural networks because they have to be thinking about how can I best communicate with this person? They don't know what I'm talking about. I have to think of a better way to say it. I have to think of an effective way to say it. So it's been completely eye-opening. The other thing that's really happened over these last 2 years is that we've had juniors and seniors in high school, some who have come on and joined and become Russell Sage students. But we had one this summer who worked in our Spanish speakers group, and she was from Bethlehem, but she's going to New Paltz for speech pathology. And then she said, hopefully coming here for graduate school. So we'll cross everything. But she was a senior in high school. We have a junior in high school who's volunteering in the fall. And I'm just really thrilled to even have this opportunity for people. We have graduate students in speech pathology completing their internships or their adult placement from Ithaca, Iona, I spelled that wrong, I'm sorry, got a little A, Misericordia, and then literally yesterday I got a call from Melissa Spring from St. Rose Days. She manages the Emerson department in Boston, and we're getting a student for the fall from Emerson whose placement fell through, and then she called me yesterday, and so the student's going to start on Monday. So great students. We also have some students that are participating from SUNY Albany, and Kelly Fagan, one of our previous colleagues, teaches the anthropology students and anatomy and physiology over there, and an intro to communication disorders. And those students are coming over to do communication partner training with us. Okay. These are the groups that we currently offer, and you can see they're varied. I'm aware that it's 7:21, so I just want to be mindful. I'll probably talk for a couple more minutes, but part of it I want to make sure that I show a video. Okay. These are the number of groups that we offer, and the groups are very much client driven. So that means right now we have a book group, but if in the beginning of the fall or the middle of the fall, someone wants to start a movie group, that might be what we switch that group to, right? There's lots of movable parts because we want to make sure that we're meeting the needs of the people with aphasia. You can imagine the impact on that person is so significant. In terms of identity, in terms of their ability to really communicate about their feelings, about their needs, about what's going on, about their opinions, about their choices, and being able to participate in the world in a way that they want to. So, of course, we are worried about things like loneliness and isolation, fear, depression. There's high levels of those in the people who have aphasia. So we're very mindful of that. And the conversation that happens during group is often very much emotionally led discussions. Dr. Debonis is one of our Monday volunteers, and he'll attest to the fact that the powerful conversations that happen in our Monday group are really are heavy and the person needs a lot of support to be able to talk about these really complex issues, but it is so essential that we do that. I want to show you you know what? I think what I'll do is I'm gonna finish here and I'm gonna pull up a video of Miriam Stewart. She's one of our participants. And she had an interview with Laura Bryan on Channel 6 News. And I want to make sure that I let that video do the talking. Should I do that now or should I do that toward the end? What are your thoughts, Jack or Dave?
Now.
Now, okay. All righty. So let me stop this share. And now what I'm going to do, oh, Emily Mooney is on. Maybe Emily, could you introduce yourself while I'm pulling up this video of Miriam?
Hi, I'm Emily. I recently started, actually a month ago today, working with the Aphasia Center in Julie. So I'm so excited to be a part of this great team, and I'm thrilled to be working with the participants.
Wonderful. Okay, so let me pull up, and I apologize, I'm doing it like this. Channel 6 News, Miriam Stewart. I had the video pulled up on it, but I don't have that copy open of the, there we go. Okay. Now remember, this is probably going to be an ad, and I can't control what ads come up. 1 second, I'll skip the ad.
And
Julie, you'll probably have to
You
re-share
are
your
about to
screen.
meet an incredible woman. Who
Okay.
had a stroke about
I'm so sorry. Okay. Let me pull that up. Let me do a share screen.
about 10 years ago and has been battling aphasia ever since. It's a language disorder that affects a person's ability to find the right word, understand what others are saying, read, write, or even just put a full sentence together. There's an Aphasia Center at Russell Sage College, and that's where I had the chance to meet her. And easiest question first, just tell me your name and spell it for me.
Miriam Stewart, and I can't because of the stroke.
That's okay. From the moment we sat down for an interview with Miriam Stewart, it became clear that aphasia's impacts on her do not make life easy. For her, the language disorder aphasia stems from a stroke she had about 10 years ago.
And how old were you?
Just 36.
Yeah.
Miriam relies on tools like writing down words that she has trouble vocalizing, particularly numbers. She says waking up in the hospital after her stroke was shocking to her.
Yeah, I think, and it was starting over, literally starting over. The ABCs, now I can't articulate.
Shortly after her stroke, she started coming here to the Aphasia Center, formerly at the College of St. Rose and now at Russell Sage College. She works regularly with Julie Hart.
And the right word doesn't come out.
Julie works with stroke patients like Miriam and others who have aphasia, and then Sage students looking to get clinical experience with aphasia patients.
We want to make sure that they understand how to be more comfortable talking with someone and facilitating that conversation as opposed to just going in there cold.
Julie says there's a lot that people don't understand about aphasia.
One of the most harmful things that physicians say often is that wherever you are at a year is where you will be. And that, to me, is such a barrier that gets created for that person.
Because it leads to patients losing hope and belief in their abilities, something Miriam struggled with as she battled depression post-stroke.
I couldn't articulate, and but I was just depressed, very much so.
And the reality is, Julie says Miriam started having breakthroughs with her language 3 years after her stroke and has only continued to improve. Miriam's run long distance races since her stroke. She's driving again, adapted, and working and traveling, doing all the things she did pre-stroke, just with some added tools and wisdom.
You have purpose. And God's got a plan. And so just be patient. Because God's got a plan. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Let me give you a hug.
Well, Sage's Aphasia Center has a caseload of 26 patients, but they're looking to take on more. They're one of only about 50 aphasia centers in the whole country. They see people for 10 different groups during the week for about 2 hours each, and you can find more information about it in this story on our website, cbs6albany.com.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for watching that. Now this, I believe, dear. Okay. I'm going to stop share and then reshare. And the beautiful thing about that video, I think it is that you can see the impact it had on the reporter. She happened to be 36 years old at the time of that interview. She was also 8 months pregnant, 8 point something months pregnant. And so to have, I'm so sorry why I'm not finding where there we go. To have her get to see what the one, the power of someone who has lost their language and lost their ability to communicate, but also the recovery and the possibility. And it just really was beautiful. So I have a host of other things to share. I could talk for 17,000 days on this Aphasia Center. It is at the heart of who I am. And but right now I'm going to
Julie, why don't you take some questions, Julie?
yeah, I would love that. So let me
Yeah, go
stop
ahead.
share. And then does anyone have a question? And Fran, do you see anything in either the chat or the,
Not as of yet.
okay, or and feel free, people, to ask questions, or if you have questions, my email is provided there as well. And I know that Jen and Fran can make that available to you as well. So now we're going to switch on, and I'm going to share the, I'm going to share, oh, hold on one second. I
Uh,
see
how
something
does someone start working with the center?
in terms of as a patient, as someone who's has aphasia. They are usually referred by their speech pathologist because the path is that someone is in acute care hospital, then they go to rehab, then they go to outpatient, and then that outpatient therapist refers to us. We are just beginning a new relationship with Albany Med as well. And so we'll be working with the discharge planners at that point there, so we can help start meeting them really soon after their stroke. If you are a family member, you can contact me to do that intake, and you can share information about your family member, and then we can come in and have a meeting in person. So I would hope that you could certainly email me at heartj4@sage.edu, and Jen will have other contacts. I hope that answers that. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Emily. Emily just put that because Emily is my right-hand woman now, and so she fills in all the blanks that I leave out. So Emily just put that in the chat. So let's open up the presentation of
And Jewel, while you're doing that, there was one thing that was said in that video that I think was so powerful about people's ability to make progress far beyond what they're told when they're discharged by their doctors. Can you just talk a little bit more about that, and that the mind actually, there is healing that can be done? And you've seen it like for years and years of a person making progress over time. Can you just talk about that?
Yeah, I just got chills because this is something I'm on a mission to change, is the perception that the person stops making improvement, functional recovery after a year. Wherever they are at a year, that's where they'll be. And that's really discouraging. the we understand neuroplasticity, the idea that the brain, when stimulated, can make really functional changes year after year after year. I have a gentleman whose stroke was in 1998, right? So that's 28 years ago. He is still making change. I have people that their stroke was 15 years ago. They are making change because you're purposefully working towards something. So we're using the principles of neuroplasticity, the idea of use it or lose it, the idea of really targeted, contextualized stimulation that we know works. It's evidence-based practice with what we're doing. And so we're seeing people change on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. And I will fight for that till I can no longer speak about it, because it's really discouraging that what they do, and it's really empowering when you see the change that someone can make. Okay, so Jen, does that cover that?
Absolutely. That's awesome. It's my favorite thing to hear about, is because it's so hopeful. And people are so resilient in that they'll put the time in over years and not give up at it for years
Absolutely.
and years to regain skill.
Yeah, it's on our flyer, as a matter of fact, and this gentleman received the flyer, and his neurologist had said, this gentleman Tony that we see, he's going to be speaking at this year's Moving Message event, September 12th. And Tony's neurologist said, you can try speech therapy, but it's not going to work. You're going to be where you are.
Mhm.
And but on our flyer, it says we talk about neuroplasticity, and And they said that's the selling point for them because they knew that I would believe in the capacity to improve. And so I think we just know too much about the brain that we know the person will continue to recover. So I'm going to move on to my colleague's slide because I want to make sure that we get the, ample time for them to talk because they all know
Julie,
how to talk.
do you mind moving the slides for me?
Not at all. So the next.
Okay, so we're gonna skip the intros because we did that.
Good,
Except,
good.
did we want Emily to introduce herself since
Oh,
she didn't
she
get a
did.
chance?
Yep, she did.
Oh, she did.
Asked her to when she popped on. Yes.
Oh, great. Okay, great. You can keep. Yep, and here we are. All right. So the undergrad program in speech pathology, which was created last fall, is designed to prepare students for grad school. So that's an important first point to make, is that in order to practice clinically, you need to have a master's degree. So what our goal is with the undergrad program is to have students get into a rigorous and challenging and stimulating grad program. And so that's our main goal. And that'll ultimately lead to being able to provide professional service, like the kinds of service that Julie's talking about. One of the amazing things about being here at Sage is that Sage already has physical therapy, occupational therapy, mental health counseling, education, nursing, health sciences. So we really feel like there's so many opportunities to create some sort of interdisciplinary situation, which is going to serve the students well. Because professionals don't work in isolation. They don't work all by themselves, or they shouldn't be working all by themselves, right? We should be reaching out to our colleagues in other fields and together providing the best service for our clients. So we're very, very happy to be here with Sage.
Excellent. Next slide.
So the next slide is designed to just give people an awareness of the breadth of speech-language pathology. So I think the public might have in some cases, a narrow view of what does a speech pathologist do? It's very, very broad, right? So we think about a 2-year-old who has delayed language. That would be an obvious place where maybe a speech pathologist would come in to provide therapy. What about the kindergartner who stutters, right? So stuttering is also called a fluency issue, where the child sometimes gets stuck on certain sounds or certain words. Well, it's important that that be addressed if it's true stuttering, so that it doesn't become a bigger problem, which can lead to bullying in the classroom and things like that. Again, the role of the speech pathologist. The middle school student who has hearing loss. Well, we know that kids in school legally should have equal access to information, right? Just as all the other students do. And sometimes that doesn't happen unless a speech pathologist steps in. I mean, I've seen this many, many times where a speech pathologist who knew that that was his or her responsibility, intervened and said, we need to do more for this child so they have access to the information in the classroom. And classrooms are notoriously noisy, and so that adds another element to that. The high school student recovering from brain injury, unfortunately, kids in their mid-teens to later teens to early 20s are at risk for traumatic brain injuries, often involve car accidents and things like that. Think about that young person. What do they want to do as soon as they're physically better? They want to go back to school and finish their degree. If that requires attention and memory and concentration, right? So again, that student's going to need help. The speech pathologist is often the person who will provide some of that help. School teacher who has vocal nodules. So Dr. Pickering is an expert on voice, but I know a little tiny bit about it. And I know that people who use their voice all the time and sometimes use it inappropriately, like if you're a singer or a coach or a teacher or those sort of professions, you can end up with little bumps on your vocal folds, right, called nodules, and you want to get that resolved. And often therapy can help with that. Person with autism who struggles in social communication disorders. It's interesting, I just read recently that one of the reasons why there's a greater need for speech language pathologists is because of the increased number of people being diagnosed with autism. It's a big number. And it's growing. So in social settings, there's sort of some unwritten rules about how you use language, right? In certain settings, you use certain kinds of language. When you're talking to certain people, you use different kinds of language. These unwritten rules are very hard for some people to learn, particularly people who might be on the spectrum. And so a speech pathologist can help with that. And then the 70-year-old, I mean, Julie just talked about stroke and the implications of that. The age thing, I just want to point out, though, Julie's clients are a variety of ages. And as you saw in the video, that client had a stroke in her 30s, so it can affect any age. Thanks, Julie. Okay, so this is important. The number of people who need services is far greater, speech language services, than the number of clinicians out there, right? So this is just the reality. And this is one of the motivating factors that caused SAGE to want to bring us here, because St. Rose was serving that purpose, right, of producing a number of speech pathologists each year. And St. Rose was no longer going to be able to do that. And if you look at the Bureau, I look at the Bureau of Labor, you know, they have all these statistics, right? That's a government agency. And they'll tell you that over the next 10-year period, the growth in our field, speech language pathology, is going to be about 15%. Now, 5% is considered a healthy job market over the next 10 years. 15% is a ridiculous job market. So that's good news for students because they will definitely get a job. Unfortunately, though, the clients right now are suffering, right? Because there are clients who need services and there's not enough speech pathologists. So it is a field that is growing, and it's not a field that AI can perform, as I mentioned that. So we're dedicated to training in our undergrad program, and we're going to use research, as Julie alluded to, right? Scholarship and research, right? Now, in some cases, there's a lack of research, and that's true of all fields. Well, in that case, we do the best I can. We use our clinical judgment. But where there's research, our students will know how to use it and how to apply it. So evidence-based practice, okay? And then it says SLPs are employed in educational and medical settings. So that's the breadth of it, right? You could work with little kids and be working on sounds. You could work in a hospital working with people with strokes or traumatic brain injuries, people with swallowing disorders. So there's a great variety involved. Okay. New and updated program, right? We came from St. Rose. We took that program and we modified it to make it better. And that's the program that we're offering for our undergrads currently. We're a small program. We are student-centered. We have high expectations, but we also provide a lot of support. I think that's a good combination. We talked about being an interdisciplinary program with our other disciplines at SAGE. We're going to use evidence-based practice, and we have an open door policy. William? Believe it or not, in some programs, they focus on typical communication, non-communication disorders. We have never done that. That's never been our philosophy. We have a number of courses that focus on what's the typical communication, but we also have always had a number of credits, sometimes up to 26 or 7 credits on communication disorders. And what we found is that when our students go to grad school, they already are a little bit ahead of some of their other students because we've already talked to them about disorders. So here's what the typical communication is, and here's what disordered communication looks like. I'm going to let my colleague Caitlin take over and talk about some clinical things.
Hey, great. So just like Julie was talking about earlier, we really try to get our students involved working in that clinical or community setting as soon as possible. So having that first course, SLP 105, is really exciting for those freshman students coming in their first semester. Having that chance to participate in those groups that Julie was talking about at the Aphasia Center, and then also joining their 3 meeting dates throughout the semester where the class comes together so that they can discuss the experience and bring research into it and really reflect on more than just what happened in the room, but what are the bigger implications of that. So it gets our students thinking like clinicians, but also thinking like community members who have to see that big picture. The Russell Sage College 301, RSC 301, is part of a series of courses that all Russell Sage students take, and the 301 is towards the end of their program across all disciplines where they get to go out into the community and like Julie mentioned earlier, one of the projects that students can choose to do is come to the Aphasia Center. So there's just another opportunity for people from all different disciplines to come and learn more about communication. SLP 380, this is our clinical methods course. This is where students start to learn what it looks like to provide therapy and to do assessment. We help students learn about the theoretical bases for how we go about treating all different communication disorders. What does it look like to plan a therapy session? What kind of things go into the strategies that you might choose to use? And then also we discussed that ethical behavior, the professional responsibility that comes with being a professional speech language pathologist. And then the big one is also working on some of that writing. Students start to learn how to write treatment plans, which really prepares them for the clinical written work that they'll have to do as graduate students and eventually as professionals. In this course, they also have the opportunity to gain 25 supervised observation hours. That's for both assessment and treatment. And that really opens up the way for them to see and truly understand and then digest all the pieces of an evaluation or a treatment session, preparing them to then do their clinical field work, which comes up a little later. So then that clinical fieldwork, SLP 470, this is a required fieldwork experience for our undergraduate students. This gives them the chance to go out into the community and gain some clinical hours under the supervision of a licensed speech-language pathologist. This is part-time, about 9 to 10 hours per week. And this is another chance for students to now take a little bit more ownership of that treatment planning and implementation. And then those clinical hours can actually go towards those graduate clinical hours that they will need to become a speech language pathologist once they're in graduate school. Okay, and then
Super,
the
thank
last,
you.
oh, sure. Do you want me to chat about this one too?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, sorry. The last thing I was going to add is some other ways to get students engaged on campus. I am really looking forward to working with some of the students we have now and some of our incoming students to work to establish a Russell Sage chapter of the National Student Speech Language Hearing Association. I was a faculty co-advisor of the St. Rose chapter of this group, and I know Grace Pastor is on today. Hi, Grace. She was the co-advisor with me. So I'm really excited for the opportunity to get students together to, again, engage in their community, fundraising, and working together in different ways. All right, and I'll pass that off to you now, Jack.
Thank you, Caitlin. A little bit more about the curriculum. While we're really excited about the SLP courses, the courses that are the basic communication processes and communication disorders, we also think we have some nice complementary courses in education and child development that are offered here at SAGE. The school is the primary setting for speech language pathologists, so the more we can provide our students with the opportunity to learn about learning in a school environment, the better. Contrasting that with the medical science courses that are offered, presenting contact in many graduate courses, giving our students really one of many head starts, a leg up on their peers, so they're going to look really attractive when it comes to seeking graduate education. These courses, the education, child development on one hand, complemented by the science, healthcare, medical courses, are courses consistent with the requirements, in fact, the standards of the American Speech Language Hearing Association and New York State teacher certification. And we were so fortunate that SAGE has a collection of these courses and even electives beyond this that our students can take. It's exciting. So Dave, Caitlin, and me just a little bit talked about the curriculum. So in summary, there's the general education requirements, liberal arts and sciences, but also some of these RSC courses and writing courses that are connected to the community in important ways. We also have coursework required for teacher certification and professional licensure. Once again, giving our students a leg up when it comes to graduate school, because they're going to need these courses in order to be licensed and clinically certified. There are the courses that focus on basic communication processes. I teach a couple of them, the speech science class and the anatomy and physiology class, and that's all well and good, but to be able to combine that with courses in speech language pathology and audiology, clinical information that our students can take with them and use in the clinical courses that Caitlin was talking about is important. And a theme that we really feel good about is that of community service and clinical practice activities, taking and learning outside the classroom with real people in the real world. Sometimes it's going to be specific to those clients that we work with, like those with aphasia, but sometimes it's going to be with advocates and working with people who maybe are making decisions about how our participants are going to be treated in their real worlds. So that kind of is, in a nutshell, our curriculum. And we're really excited about it because, as Dave was saying, we had a good start at St. Rose and felt really, really good about the undergraduate experience that our students had. This is better, and I think it'll make them more competitive for graduate school. Now, we also created last year a minor in speech-language pathology. For a student in health sciences, psychology, education, who may want to go on to graduate school in speech-language pathology, but wants to have that core discipline taken care of at the undergraduate level, this would be the set of courses that a student could take as they're studying in another field, in another discipline, to get the prerequisites that are necessary in order to be successful in graduate school. We really feel good about that and hope that our colleagues, and we've been talking to them regularly, hopefully we'll be able to attract students that will come and take this basic communication processes courses, the background, but also some coursework in communication disorders, a choice that they'll have some child, some adult, some medical, some healthcare, some education. So we feel really good about that. And if you know of somebody that's not studying SLP who would like to come and get some coursework in, the minor is a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. So what's a typical path from student to profession to career? Clearly completing the undergraduate degree, and we think ours has the opportunity to provide an advantage for our students going into graduate school, including getting up to 50 hours of clinical practicum toward their required 400. Second step is to complete a graduate degree. We're in the process of looking at an application and hopefully in 2 or 3 years have a graduate master's program here at Sage. We have advanced coursework, clinical hours obtained under the supervision of a speech-language pathologist. That breadth of information that Dave talked about, coursework and clinic with children and adults. And it includes hours that are required for New York State teacher certification. Once you've finished this coursework at the master's level, you need to take and pass a national exam. The praxis in speech-language pathology had a really good track record at St. Rose and intend to have the same good track record here. The first year of practice and the first job that our students have is called a clinical fellowship year, a 1-year paid experience. In fact, it's the person's first job, but it's done under the support and supervision of a certified professional. Students may decide to stay in their CFY position, I know many of us have, or pursue employment elsewhere. So that's the typical path our students would take from undergraduate degree to being a fully certified clinician. Dave talked about this a little bit. Is the employment outlook good? Yes, it is very good. In the 10-year period between 24 and 2034, the projected growth of 15%, as Dr. Debonis was saying, there are approximately 13,300 openings for SLPs projected each year on average over a decade. So we're looking at a lot of need and a lot of openings, and because of clinical populations like those on the spectrum, and I think geriatric populations that we're starting to understand more and better, there's going to be a real need for clinicians beyond those who are going to retire. The median annual salary, the wages for a speech language pathologist in May of 2024 is $95,410. A good salary for a speech language pathologist. Of course, that's the average across people in their experiences. The profession of speech language pathology is always seen as one with high satisfaction. A good living can be made. The opportunity for variability in clinical populations and settings makes it a real appealing place to practice. So, in conclusion, we feel like we've built a program for student success. And to have the Aphasia Center as kind of the flagship structure for that is really, really cool. We teach in a multimodality way in both clinic and classroom, use technology in helpful ways to support students in the classroom and outside. We want to encourage faculty availability and flexibility, allowing more contact with students who may need one-to-one support, but who may also want to just create a connection with us, an important connection that they may benefit from throughout their experience as a speech language pathologist. The college has a wonderful tutoring program, and services can be provided in SLP and speech language pathology by former students who have demonstrated proven success in the class. Now we have enough students in the program that we're going to start tapping those students to become tutors. Group advisement. One-on-one advisement is done to ensure that students have accurate and updated information for class selections. We're going to start working on the spring semester tomorrow. So there's that ongoing work and need to have strong advisement. Students in our program will be advised by faculty, and we will always maintain that value. Small classes and department size increase opportunity for connection and support as well. So we feel really good about the program. We've got a good head start. Caitlin, wonderful to add to the faculty, to have people like Emily on board who can help support the Aphasia Center is really, really fascinating, fantastic. And thank you for your interest. We have 3 minutes left according to my time. Does anybody have any questions?
Give people a second to put their questions in the chat if they want to.
And then also, Jen, I want to just mention, we have, I personally, and I believe we as a department have really appreciated your support and your kind of cheerleading for us. And that's been since the beginning, certainly since St. Rose, because you were also a Rosebud with us. And I know that I've appreciated your support. And then I also loved having your son with me this summer. It was a wonderful, Thursdays were a lot of fun because Andrew, or as one of the clients nicknamed him Andre because he couldn't say Andrew. Andre, we loved having him with us, and I can see where he gets his intelligence from, and we're so excited to see where he goes.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
My son, for the audience, is an education major incoming at Sage next week.
Yes.
So it's very exciting to see him have this experience. I think we have a question or two in the chat.
There were a couple, yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Do you see an increase in interest in this field by students applying to Sage?
Oh, I think.
Yes, and I think the connection between the Aphasia Center and having volunteers at the junior and senior level already just provides an open door for those students to become interested, whether they study here, take the minor, or maybe a class now and then. Absolutely.
And the next question is, in my day, this wasn't available. Does Sage now teach general linguistics in addition to phonetics?
I could answer that one. So our course is still phonetics. It's not a full linguistics course like you might get in a like the anthropology department at the University of Albany. But I will say the phonetics course has really shifted to include some broader linguistic concepts and really to make sure that it's not just an American English, standard American English dialect of phonetics, but really looking at the different variations that we might see as well.
Wonderful.
Awesome. If there are any others, get them in now. I do want to say my son and his own experiences. I watched him grow over the weeks this summer in working with Jewel, who he was in awe of, by the way, and how she worked with the clients there.
I do pay people.
But also just that what you said about the people who come for services are the experts. And I think Andrew learned that over the course of his time there, that they were teaching him how to help them, right? And there were weeks where he was super frustrated because he felt like he blew it for the expert that he was working with. And then the next week he would get a little better, and that expert would say, "You did much better this week in helping me understand what we were to say." So that was just a phenomenal process for him as a young person, and especially going into a field, with like teaching, where he's going to have to learn how to work with people in different stages and who learn in different ways. So it was just an invaluable experience. But I want to take a second. It's going to put us the tiniest bit over time. Honoring the St. Rose legacy. All of you came through that, in some way. The way that program was founded, the philosophy in which that program was founded, was really before its time and very pioneering. Can you talk about just that for a moment, and how that kind of philosophy in working with people persists?
It was Sharp Bloom, right?
In 1960, Pauline K. Winkler was a speech-language pathologist working with folks with hearing impairment. She was asked by the doctors at Albany Medical Center to start a program in what was called speech correction at the time. Pauline came, started the program, and in a very short period of time, as Dave was mentioning, Sister Charlene Bloom came and just a powerhouse. She was there to build community, created the Fluency Council with people that had problems with stuttering. She was a real leader, not only at St. Rose, but nationally. And as someone who came to St. Rose in the early 90s, she was really the rock. She was the one that talked about community and culture and how important it was that we shared amongst all of us. And the Fluency Council was a council of people who stuttered. It was not run by Sister Char.
All right. And I'll just add, also, we had the addition in the 90s of Dr. Mark Ilvasacker, who unfortunately is no longer with us, but he was really ahead of his time in terms of seeing true person-centered services. With life participation approach, the idea that that individual has to be at the center of what we do as clinicians. We are not setting goals. We're allowing that person and facilitating their ability to set their own goals. And so that life participation is a true credit to him.
We were so fortunate to be working there with these giants, really.
Huge.
I mean, it changed our lives. And I remember at one of our ASHA site visits, they said to Sister Char, "This technique that you're using is way ahead of its time." And Char said, "We've been doing this for 20 years. So, I mean, she really was truly ahead of the curve on many ways. But
And we have one comment, not a question, from Grace, who just wanted to say hi. She's so happy that you're all here, and the program that you've built sounds great, and she misses you all.
Thank you, Grace.
Thanks,
We
Grace.
miss you, Grace, so much.
And Emily just put everyone's contact information in the chat. So if you have any other questions, you can also reach out to the alumni office, rscalum@sage.edu, and we will forward it on your behalf. I also want to invite you to come to our next Proudly Sage webinar, which is next month on September 17th. And that session will be featuring the creative arts taking center stage about all of the arts programs here at the college. So we want to thank all of our amazing panelists tonight and all of you for joining us, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks,
Thank
Fran.
you.
Thanks, Jen.
All right. Thank you.
Fran.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Jen.
Bye.